What if the secret to transforming your mindset, building unstoppable confidence, and attracting lasting success wasn't found in your daily grind, but in the words you fall asleep to tonight? Let the timeless wisdom of Napoleon Hill rewire your thinking while you rest. Close your eyes and open your mind to greatness. What if you could walk through chaos with calm? What if no insult, no rejection, no failure could shake you again? Imagine being immune to drama, untouched by disrespect, invincible in your peace. This isn't about escaping life. It's about mastering it. There's a switch within you, waiting to be flipped, and once it is, everything changes: your world, your reflection, your response. You felt it before: that pressure beneath the surface when someone crosses the line, when your plans unravel, when the day blindsides you, the heat rising in your chest, the urge to snap, to lash out, to reclaim control in the fastest way possible. But the truth is, the moment never owns you unless you hand it the keys. What controls you isn't the insult, the setback, or the disrespect. What controls you is how you react, and that reaction is yours to command. You don't need to explode. You don't need to retreat. You can stay right there, in the heart of the storm, and choose how you respond. That's where true power lies: not in force, not in fury, but in presence. To stand firm when the world tries to shake you, to speak with intention while others shout. That is strength, and strength doesn't need to make noise. Picture this: a stranger's rudeness, a co-worker's betrayal, a friend's careless remark, and yet your peace remains untouched. Their chaos passes through you like wind through branches. It never grips you. That isn't coldness. That's composure. You already made the decision long before that moment. No one gets to own your state of mind but you. You prepare for this in the quiet, before the noise, before the friction. You train your vision to stay clear, your thoughts to settle like calm water. You walk into each day expecting storms, but refusing to be swept up in them. You stay grounded, not by avoiding life's friction, but by building a mind that doesn't flinch. Put yourself in a room where tempers flare and voices rise. You're not part of the fire. You observe. You understand. But you don't get pulled in. You respond only when there's purpose. That isn't indifference. That's leadership. That's power, discipline. Because the loudest man in the room is rarely the strongest. He's often the most scared. There is no honor in being triggered by every slight. No wisdom in responding to every provocation. Ask yourself, what do you gain by proving yourself to people who don't even know who they are? Why let strangers pull your strings like a puppet? You weren't made to bend with every breeze. You were built to hold your shape under pressure, when your reactions are yours alone. You walk differently, you speak less, but every word lands. You act less, but your presence leaves a mark. That's the man the world remembers, not the one who broke, but the one who could have and didn't. The one who chose stillness over spite, clarity over chaos, and in doing so, became unshakable. What disrupts your peace isn't always the noise around you, it's the spotlight of your own attention. The untrained mind wakes already overwhelmed, chasing shadows before your feet even touch the ground. You're tangled in imagined conversations, anticipating conflict, doubting your next move. The moment you give that chaos your attention, it takes root, and what you feed with focus, you grow. You don't see reality as it is, you see it through the lens of what you dwell on. If you stare at the cracks, the whole wall seems broken. But if you look for the structure holding it up, something shifts. You start noticing strength. You begin to build on it. Think about how the people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different truths. One curses the rain and retreats. The other sees soil softening, ready for growth. The difference isn't in the event. It's in where they place their focus. That isn't luck, it's training. It's awareness. It's the discipline to decide, again and again, where your energy belongs. You can train your mind to seek the next step instead of the next threat. You can teach yourself to quiet the noise and turn your focus toward clarity. It begins with better questions, not why is this happening to me, but what can I do with this? Not what's missing, but what can I build from this? That's how to evolve from reaction to intention. That's how you lead, not just survive. Imagine living a day where your energy doesn't leak through frustration or distraction, where your time isn't lost worrying about what others think or comparing yourself to someone else's timeline. Instead, your attention is locked in on what matters: creating, improving, building, even if it's just your own mindset. That kind of focus doesn't just make you more productive, it makes you stronger. Harder to shake, harder to distract, harder to stop. You're not here to chase every problem or entertain every thought. you're here to choose. And every time you choose where your focus goes, you're shaping your reality. You're either building yourself or you're letting yourself erode. There is no neutral. What you feed grows, so pause right now. Not later, not theoretically. What are you focusing on at this very moment? Is it sharpening you, strengthening you, steadying you, or is it silently draining the strength you need tomorrow? You get to decide, because in the end, your focus is your steering wheel. Where it turns, your light follows. And the man who learns to control that doesn't just survive the storm, he walks through it with direction, with clarity, with purpose. In a world that never stops moving, stillness is rare. Not just physical stillness, but mental. Not just motion, but noise, the kind that crowds your mind more than the streets ever could. People shout for attention, chase validation, and fill space with noise just to feel something. But in that chaos, the rarest man is the one who remains still, not frozen, but focused. Stillness isn't inaction. It's intentional clarity. It's the discipline to move with purpose, not pressure, to remain present, not trapped by yesterday, not anxious about tomorrow, but rooted in now. Stillness is the strength to observe without reacting, to listen without rushing, to choose without being pulled. Most people live in constant response to their phones, their fears, and the world's noise. But you don't. You've stepped back. You see more, because you're not swept up in everything. You choose your next move, and that choice is your power. Picture your mind as a calm, still lake. When undisturbed, it mirrors the world with perfect clarity, but every reactive impulse, every burst of worry, and every emotional flare-up, those are like stones tossed into the water. Ripples distort the reflection, and for many, the lake never settles. They live constantly stirred, always reacting, and always pulled by whatever surrounds them. But you can choose differently. You can let the water remain still. You can decide not to throw the stone, and that stillness, it's not weakness, it's precision. While the world wastes energy in endless motion, you conserve yours. You don't rush into every conflict. You don't explain yourself to every misunderstanding. You don't let every wave push you off course. You act only when action matters, and when you move, it's with deliberate impact. And stillness, insight is born. In the pause, truth makes itself visible. You begin to hear your own voice, not the noise around you. You learn to recognize which choices are truly yours and which are just reactions borrowed from someone else's urgency. In that awareness, you return to yourself. You start living from principle, not pressure. Ask yourself, when was the last time you made a decision from calm, not from fear, not from pride, not from expectation, but from clarity? If that moment is rare, then so is your peace. But it's not unreachable. You find it when you stop feeding every ripple and start honoring the silence that follows. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It simply exists. And when you begin to move from that place, not flinching, not chasing, but choosing with full awareness, you become unshakable. People will wonder how you stay so steady. In chaos, how'd you choose so wisely? How you walk with such quiet conviction? But they won't see the stillness you built in silence. They'll only see the strength that rises from it. Now consider this, living by your principles, not your moods. There are mornings when the world feels heavier than usual, when your body feels sluggish, your mind cluttered, and your drive distant. Those are the moments when quitting starts whispering, when shortcuts seem tempting, when not today feels justified. But that's the exact moment it matters most. That's when you find out who's really in charge of your fleeting emotions, or the deeper part of you that remembers what you stand for. Moods are like weather, unpredictable and ever-changing. One moment you're motivated, the next you're drowning in doubt. If you let emotions steer your course, you'll drift endlessly. But if your compass is built on values unchanging and true, then you stay on track, no matter the weather. That's where real strength lives, not in the days when it's easy, but in the ones where you show up anyway. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like it? You ask, is this who I said I'd be? That one shift changes everything. One question makes you float, the other roots you in purpose. And purpose doesn't demand perfection, it demands consistency, a quiet, steady loyalty to who you chose to become. Even when no one's watching, living by principle is a choice made, not once, but again and again, usually in silence. It happens in decisions that earn no applause, choosing patience over reaction, integrity over shortcuts, discipline over ease. It's a daily practice of doing what's right, not for recognition, not for validation, but because your inner compass says so. Imagine going through your day knowing that no matter what chaos comes your way, your response will be grounded not in emotion, but in commitment. You're not pulled into drama. You're not distracted by other people's noise. You know who you are. You know where you're headed. That kind of clarity is rare and powerful. It builds something greater than admiration. It builds trust, not just with others, but within yourself. And that's the real reward of living by principle, self-trust. Knowing that you'll show up even when it's hard. That when comfort calls or pressure rises, you won't fold. That trust becomes your armor, and over time, it becomes your identity. You're no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You're no longer someone hoping to be consistent. You are consistent. While others live at the mercy of emotion, you live by decisions steady, focused, and anchored. So ask yourself, what do you stand for when no one's looking? Who are you when no one's grading your effort? That answer will shape your life more than any moment of motivation. Because principles don't shout, they guide. And when you follow them long enough, you don't just live right, you become solid. You become someone real, someone you can count on. Always. Now, let's talk about owning your inner world. There's a force within you stronger than any storm around you, a place untouched by opinion, untouched by chaos, untouched by noise, but most never reach it. They live pointing fingers, waiting on apologies, waiting for timing to feel right, waiting for the world to be easier. All the while, their minds are wide open, unguarded, inviting in every frustration, every slight, and every inconvenience, and with each one, their peace arose. But you've made a different decision. You've decided to take the wheel, not to control everything that happens, but to control how you meet it. You understand now that the world won't always tilt in your favor, people won't always be fair, and plans won't always unfold the way you imagined. But you've made peace with that reality, because while you may not control the world outside, you've learned how to rule the one within. You no longer wait for happiness to arrive like a gift. It's something you deliberately create, not through noise, but through quiet choices, tiny decisions made moment by moment, often unseen by others, but felt deeply within. You've stopped relying on others to treat you a certain way in order to feel whole. Instead, you've learned to speak to yourself with respect, to guard your inner dialogue like sacred ground. You know now peace isn't granted, it's built. It's a practice, a discipline, a daily decision to not let temporary circumstances destroy your permanent sense of self. Imagine sitting alone in a quiet room. No applause, no chaos, no conversation, just you and your breath. In that space, you are calm, not because the world has finally settled, but because you have. You stopped chasing noise. You stopped seeking validation in every corner. You grounded yourself. And that stillness, that's your power. Because once you've touched that kind of peace, you realize no one can take it from you. Not failure, not betrayal, not even loss. They may rattle the surface, but the core remains unshaken. So when someone disrespects you or tries to ignite chaos, you pause. You ask yourself, do I really want to hand them the keys to my mind? When the day turns sideways, when nothing goes as planned, you ask, is this moment truly worth trading my peace for? That pause, that awareness, that's ownership. That's not weakness, it's mastery. You're not pretending the world is perfect. You're simply refusing to let its imperfections dictate your state. You've shifted your focus to what's actually yours to change, and you've let go of what isn't. And that, right there, puts you ahead of most. Because while others are busy arguing with the weather, you're adjusting your stride and walking forward. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need every plan to unfold perfectly. You just need to remember where your real power lives. It doesn't live out there. It lives inside you. And once you own that fully, you realize there's nothing you can't face. You can lose without being lost. You can fall and still rise steady, because your peace isn't dependent on the world anymore. It depends on you and you. You've learned to expect resistance and thrive anyway. Most people don't fall because they lack the ability. They fall because they believed it would be easy. They imagined the path smooth, the rewards quick, and the progress certain. So when the friction came, they hesitated. They questioned everything. They pulled back into comfort and called it fate. But not you. You're not surprised by struggle. You've trained for it. You meet it like an old rival. You don't fear resistance, you welcome it. And because you do, it cannot break you. Asterisk, every meaningful pursuit comes wrapped in challenge, not as punishment, but as invitation. These obstacles are not barriers meant to stop you. They're tools meant to build you. The steep hill, the closed door, The delayed reward, these are not failures. They're the weight room for your will, the friction that forges your endurance. You don't rise in spite of them. You rise because of them. And yes, there will be days when everything in you wants to stop, when the effort feels too heavy and the goal too far. But those are the very moments where your identity is forged. You are not the man who folds under pressure. You are the one who pushes harder. Because you already decided resistance doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is working. Growth doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in tension, in pressure, in repetition. So picture yourself now on that steep incline, your hands on the weight, your body leaning forward. The load is heavy, the path relentless, but step by step, and you rise, not because it's easy, but because you've built yourself for the climb. Your legs are on fire, your back screams, and still, you climb. People pass by, some puzzled, some amused. They wonder why you keep pushing like this. Some mock, others offer advice from the sidelines, though they've never climbed anything themselves. But you don't flinch. You don't need their validation. You just keep climbing, because you know what waits for you at the summit. Not just a goal, but the version of you who earned it, the one who showed up, step after step, no matter how steep. You don't crave shortcuts. You don't need applause. You just need to keep moving forward, because every step you take under pressure says something. I won't break. I won't quit. I won't surrender my future to the mood of the moment. Let others chase what's easy. You've chosen what's worth it. Doubt will visit, let it pass. Fatigue will whisper, let it speak. But don't let either of them take the wheel. The climb is meant to test you. It's meant to stretch you. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know you're exactly where you should be. You don't rise because the path is smooth. You rise because it's steep and you refuse to stop. This is how the strong are made, not when everything's working, not when it's comfortable, but in the grind on the days that feel like one long uphill. You don't quit when it's hard. You rise because it's hard, and that makes you unstoppable. Now becoming immune to insults. There will always be voices trying to pull you off course. Some are loud, some are dressed in concern, some wear sarcasm like armor. But people talk because it's easy. They form opinions without facts, make judgments without depth, and throw stones from the safety of their own fear. But none of that holds weight unless you choose to pick it up. Their words have no power unless you let them land. You weren't built to be shaken by every whisper or bend under the weight of someone else's projections. The real power, it's not in how you clap back, it's in how little you need to. When you know who you are, the noise loses its edge. Being misunderstood isn't a crisis. It's confirmation you're walking a path to original for some to recognize. So let them talk. Let them analyze your steps while you keep taking the next. 1. Let them fill rooms with speculation while you fill your life with purpose. Strength isn't proven in shouting matches or clever comebacks. It's proven in silence, in composure, in the way you hold your peace while others give theirs away. Picture this. You're sitting at a long table. The room's buzzing laughter, voices, clinking glasses, and then it comes a jab, a comment meant to cut. You hear it. You feel it. But you don't flinch. You don't defend. You just lean back and smile. Not because you're weak, but because you're unmoved. You know that jab came from someone small. Their words say more about them than they ever will about you. Your silence in that moment, that's not retreat. That's control. That's power. Because when you stop giving people the reaction they crave, you starve the fire. You pull yourself out of the game, and you rise above the insult, above the need to be understood by those who'll never get it. Ask yourself, what's the point of explaining your vision to someone who's never built anything? Why lower your frequency just to be heard by someone who isn't even facing your direction? You don't owe anyone your peace just because they feel uncomfortable in your presence. There's real freedom in letting it slide. There's power in no longer reacting, in walking through a room unshaken by opinions. That's not indifference. That's evolution. When judgment stops rattling you, when insults don't trigger you, when opinions pass like wind, you've stepped into a strength that can't be taken. A strength that doesn't need validation dots, so you keep your head high, your mind focused, and your steps to liberate. Let them bark. Let them throw stones. You walk. You build. You evolve. And in that quiet confidence, you discover something rare, a piece no one else can touch. You give your energy to what's broken instead of what could be built. You shift your focus from your hands, your power, to your wounds, your pain. And wow, you're busy pointing fingers. Time keeps moving. But everything changes the moment you choose to create instead to build, to fix, to move. You stop echoing problems and start becoming the solution. Most people look at what's wrong and respond with noise. They talk, they complain, they agree with others doing the same. It feels like motion, but it's just delay wrapped in conversation. But you're not here for that. You're here to put your energy where it matters, into action. You see the same broken system, the same cracks, and the same empty spaces. But where others point, you plan. Where they grumble, you move. The world doesn't need more opinions, it needs more builders. It needs people who respond to gaps with grit, not grief. Every frustration you feel is not a reason to sulk, it's a signal, a call to rise. If you don't like how something works, work on it. If what you need doesn't exist, create it. You're not a spectator in your own life. You're the architect. You were never meant to sit back and critique the cracks, you were meant to lay the bricks. Picture walking into a place long forgotten, dusty, broken, and abandoned. Most glance around, shake their heads, and walk out. But not you. You see potential where others see problems. You bring your tools, discipline, vision, effort, and you begin. You sweep, you patch, you rebuild. Slowly, quietly, what was empty becomes whole again. Not because it was easy, but because you did what most never will. You got to work. That's how real change happens. Not in announcements, but in action, the kind done in silence. When no one is clapping, when success is not guaranteed, when the only thing holding it together is your refusal to quit. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You don't need applause to start. You just act. So next time frustration rises, stop and ask, will I complain or will I create? Will I talk about the problem or build the solution with my own hands? Because every time you choose creation over complaint, you're stacking bricks under your feet. You're rising, quietly, steadily, relentlessly. And when you rise like that day after day, you become something rare. The one people turn to when things fall apart. The one who doesn't crumble under pressure, but builds under it. That's where your power lies, not in what you say, not in what you wish, but in what you do. Now detached from outcomes, attached to effort. You want to succeed. You want peace. But the tighter you clutch the outcome, the more it slips away. That's the paradox. The more you obsess over the destination, the more you lose sight of the most important thing you're becoming in the process. Real freedom doesn't live at the finish line. It lives in the discipline to keep walking, even when there are no guarantees. You don't control how the world responds to your effort, but you control whether you give that effort fully. It's easy to fall into the trap of results, measuring your worth by applause, by numbers, by recognition, tying your identity to the external. But that's not mastery, that's dependency. And dependency will always leave you empty, constantly needing proof that you're enough. But what if your focus shifted? What if you stopped chasing the reward and started falling in love with the rhythm? What if the win wasn't the trophy, but the training? You show up not for the spotlight, but because that's who you are. You give your best not because you're promised results, but because it's the only way you know how to live. And then you release. You let the outcome land where it may. That isn't surrender. That's control of the highest kind. Knowing that what defines you isn't the result, it's the process you committed to. Imagine planting a seed. You dig the hole, you water it, you place it in sunlight, but you don't stand over it, demanding growth. You don't rip it out every morning looking for proof. If you did, you kill it. Growth takes time. Your job is the care, the consistency, the patience. The rest is not yours to force. So ask yourself honestly, are you truly showing up, or are you waiting for the world to reward you before you feel worthy? Because here's the truth. If you can't find joy in the doing, you'll never find it in the having. Even when success comes, it'll feel hollow because you were never in love with the work, only the outcome. But when fulfillment comes from the process, from the sweat, the focus, the discipline, then nothing can shake you. You become untouchable, immune to silence, immune to setbacks. Success, when it comes, becomes a quiet companion, not your identity, but the echo of your consistency. The ones who rise again and again without needing constant rewards, they're the ones who go the furthest. They don't chase shortcuts. They don't beg for validation. They trust the process. And because of that, the process rewards them, not always quickly, not always loudly, but always completely. So stay loyal to the work. Trust the roots you've planted. Let go of the timeline. Show up like it matters, because it does. And when you do, success won't be the goal. It will be the byproduct of your unwavering discipline. Now practicing emotional mastery. You feel it, the sting of being misunderstood, the slow burn of anger, and the twist of anxiety in your gut. These emotions are real, they're human, but they don't get to drive. Emotional mastery isn't about turning it all off. It's not. Suppression is direction. You feel everything, but you stay steady, not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself to choose clarity over chaos. Think of a river, smooth on the surface, but underneath powerful, deep. That's a man who's learned to lead himself. He doesn't ignore what he feels. He just refuses to let it control the wheel. He knows a quick reaction often leads to deep regret, so he pauses. He breathes. He creates space between what he feels and how he responds, and in that space, he reclaims his power. There's a difference between being emotional and being emotionally intelligent. One gets tossed around by every passing feeling. The other listens, learns, and leads. When someone snaps at you, when life delivers another unexpected blow, you don't have to mirror the chaos. You can stay grounded not because you don't feel, but because you care more about staying aligned with who you are than indulging in temporary fire. Imagine going through a full day without being hijacked by every mood swing, every provocation, and every discomfort. Imagine meeting the same stress, the same pressure, but responding with patience, with poise. That version of life exists, and it begins by training your mind to grow larger than whatever emotion tries to command it. Each morning, you make a quiet commitment. I will not be led by the first emotion that knocks. You begin to guard your thoughts like a gatekeeper. Anger can speak, but it doesn't get a weapon. Fear may whisper, but it doesn't get to paralyze. You don't show feelings away, you assess them. You ask, is this useful? Will this build me or break me? And then you choose not out of reaction, but from intent. This doesn't mean the road is smooth. It won't be. There will be days when rage roars, when sorrow clouds everything, when quitting whispers in your ear. But even then, you remember, feelings are guests. I am the host. They come and go, you remain. Something shifts the moment you stop being a follower of your emotions and start becoming their leader. You stop living at their mercy. You carry peace like armor, not because the world is quiet, but because you are. And from that quiet, you operate calm, not because nothing touches you, but because nothing controls you. That's emotional mastery, not a denial of your humanity, but a full embrace of it. With your hand still on the wheel, and from that wheel, you steer by purpose, not by praise. There will always be the lure of applause, the rush that comes when others notice your work, your presence, your progress. It's loud, seductive, addictive. It makes you feel seen, valued, important for a moment. But if you build your identity around it, if you anchor your worth in the sound of approval, you walk a fragile road. Because applause fades, crowds move on, and when they do, what's left? If your fire only burns when others are watching, it will die the moment the lights go out. But you're not here for shallow echoes. You're here for something deeper, for something real. That something is purpose. Purpose doesn't cheer, it doesn't trend, but it stays. It stays when the days are silent, when the work feels thankless, when nobody claps. That's when purpose speaks the loudest. That's where your strength is born. It's tempting to reshape yourself for praise, to bend your voice, your message, even your dreams to fit someone else's comfort. But every time you do, you lose a piece of yourself. You start performing instead of living, and without noticing it, you become a mirror for the crowd instead of a fire of your own. You've seen it. People who shine only when praised and shrink the moment they're ignored. That's not confidence. That's captivity, a life ruled by recognition is a life held hostage by strangers. But when you turn inward, when you root yourself in the quiet truth of what actually matters to you, what you believe in, what drives you when no one's watching, then you rise. Not because the world lifts you, but because you've learned to lift yourself. Picture this, you're alone in a bare workshop. No applause, no spotlight, just you, your tools, and your vision. You build, you refine, you return day after day. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. That is real power. Not how loudly others celebrate you, but how deeply you stay connected to your path. Ask yourself, if no one ever clapped, would I still build this? Would I still write this? Speak this, live this. If your answer is yes, then you're free, because now your fire isn't powered by attention, it's fueled by conviction. And from that place, no insult can sink you, no silence can shake you, no rejection can reach you. When you live from purpose, you stop waiting for permission. You stop adjusting to be understood. You move clear, certain even in a world that may never grasp your direction. And that is where your real impact begins. Quietly, unshakably, authentically. And along the way, you learn to accept what you cannot change. So much strength gets wasted trying to bend what will not move. You replay conversations that can't be rewritten. You wrestle with outcomes already decided. You exhaust yourself trying to force the uncontrollable into obedience. But peace real. Steady peace begins the moment you understand the difference between what is yours to shape and what was never yours to carry. This isn't surrender. This is clarity. It's not giving up. It's growing up. There's wisdom in knowing when to act and when to let go. Because no matter how hard you try, the rain will not answer to your frustration. The past doesn't shift just because you regret it harder. People don't transform into who you needed them to be just because you gave them every chance. But what always remains in your control, what is always yours, is your response. That choice lives in every moment, and it's in that space where your freedom begins. When trust is broken, you can drown in anger, or you can choose to rise, not by pretending it didn't hurt, but by refusing to let the hurt write your future. And when a plan collapses, you can drag it behind you like a burden, or you can recognize the road didn't end it. Simply turn. Picture a blacksmith standing before the fire. The heat is intense. The steel is stubborn. But the blacksmith doesn't curse the fire or fight the flame. He works with it. Because he knows the same fire that burns is the fire that shapes. He accepts it, molds it, and creates something stronger. That's what real acceptance looks like. Not weakness, not passivity, but the refusal to waste energy resisting the necessary heat of life. You were never meant to fold under what can't be changed. You were built to channel that energy into what can. How'd you walk? How'd you respond? How you keep showing up into the small, daily acts of intention that slowly, quietly reshape everything. It's easy to get stuck in what went wrong, to let one rejection, one disappointment, one moment of pain narrow your view. But every time you focus on what's gone, you miss what's still here. And there is always something still here. Ask yourself, honestly, am I exhausting myself trying to change a wall when I could simply walk through the open door beside it? Am I so locked on what didn't go right that I've gone blind to what still can? Acceptance doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you refuse to let what's out of your hands control your life. You stop throwing yourself at locked doors. You stop pouring light into places that never reflected. You shift. You breathe. You continue. And when you do, something happens. You become lighter, wiser, free. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting what was never yours to fix. And in that space, you finally have room to focus on what is starting with the habit of delaying judgment. Because the truth is, your mind wants to label everything the moment it happens: good, bad, right, wrong, win, failure. It happens instantly, but real truth doesn't always show up that fast. Truth often unfolds quietly and slowly in ways you don't yet understand. That need to judge everything quickly, it traps you. It steals your peace. It blinds you to the deeper meaning beneath the surface. What looks like a setback today might be the exact thing that sets you free tomorrow. The detour you hated may be the hand that pointed you to the life you were meant to live. But if you judge too early, you miss that. You resist the very thing that was sent to grow you. You resent what was sent to refine you, and in your rush to label it wrong, you stop listening to what it might be trying to teach you. You know this. You felt it. The sting of things not going your way, a rejection, a delay, a door slammed shut. It felt unfair. It felt like failure. But then time passed, and clarity came. You saw the redirection, the strength it gave you, the lesson buried in the pain. And suddenly, what once felt like punishment revealed itself as protection or preparation. You realized the judgment wasn't wrong, it was just early. Now imagine someone says something that cuts deep. The old version of you might have reacted quickly, harshly, on fire. But what if you didn't? What if you paused, took a breath, and asked, is this worth my energy? Is this even aligned with who I want to be? That single moment of restraint becomes a victory, because now you're not pulled by emotion, you're led by intention. That's what it means to delay judgment. Not to stop caring, but to wait, to give reality a chance to show you the full story. Because what you see at first glance is never the whole picture. What someone says, how a moment feels, is only a piece of something much larger that's still unfolding. Your peace depends on your ability to see that, or at least to trust that it exists. So the next time life pushes you, when something doesn't look how you hoped, ask yourself, am I reacting to truth or just to the first wave of it? Could this frustration actually be the doorway to something I don't yet see? Because when you train yourself to wait before deciding, when you stay open instead of closing off, you stop giving your calm to situations that haven't earned it. You stop letting temporary emotions harden into permanent beliefs. You move from being reactive to being rooted in clarity, and clarity doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It arrives quietly, but when it does, it changes everything. It restores your peace. And with peace, you don't just move smarter, you move stronger. And that strength continues to build through one of the most overlooked forces in your life, routine. Every single day, you're making a choice to reinforce your discipline or to feed your distractions. And while those decisions may seem small in the moment, over time they build everything. You don't rise to the level of your ambition when life gets hard. You fall to the level of your training, to what you've practiced. In silence, that's where the truth reveals itself, not in what you hope to achieve, but in what you repeatedly do when no one is watching, in the rituals, in the patterns, in the habits you uphold, especially when it's inconvenient. And when your routine is rock solid, chaos doesn't shake you, pressure doesn't break you, because your rhythm holds. There's nothing flashy about quiet consistency, but it's undefeated. It builds a strength that doesn't waver, an identity that doesn't fracture, a foundation that no one can take from you. Your power lives in the simple, repeated act of showing up again and again and again. That's where growth begins. That's where greatness is born. Not in the spotlight, but in the mornings and the nights where only you know what you're sacrificing for what you said you become. And as you push forward, you'll face moments where compromise feels easier than conviction, where shortcuts seduce you, where the world rewards mediocrity with applause and celebrates those who played just enough to win, but never enough to earn. But that's not your path. If you want to build something lasting, something real, you ignore the noise. You raise your standard, not to impress anyone, but to honor yourself. That standard doesn't come with a rule book. No one hands it to you. It's carved in the silence between what you could get away with and what you choose to do anyway. It lives in your unseen effort. It's not for credit. It's your internal code. And that code is what separates the powerful from the passive. Not luck, not talent, but the unwillingness to take the easy road when the higher one is available. When you live by that code, discipline doesn't have to be forced. It becomes your nature. You don't wait for motivation. You don't need applause. You move with purpose, not performance. Picture a craftsman in a quiet workshop, sanding a piece of wood no one will ever see. No cameras, no audience, no praise, and yet he works with precision because his name is on the product even if no one ever finds it. That's integrity. That's legacy. Quiet effort, quiet mastery, quiet strength. Now imagine living that way, making choices not for recognition, but for alignment, showing up not because someone's watching, but because this is who you are. Ask yourself, would I still do it if no one knew? Would I still give my best if it earned me nothing but self-respect? Because when your standard lives inside you, you become unshakable. You don't bend every time someone doubts you. You don't fold when the pressure comes. Your code becomes your armor. You don't just rise when things are easy, you rise especially when they're not. Because your effort is no longer tied to outcomes. It's tied to identity. That's how you live above the noise. That's how you become the kind of man whose work speaks for itself quietly, powerfully, without compromise. A man built from within, undeniable. And when life doesn't go your way, when the effort falls short, when the door closes, when the sting of defeat hits your chest, you feel it. That disappointment is real. It matters. But it's not the end. It's the forge. Where most see failure as a wall, you see it as a mirror, a teacher, a proving ground. Not where your path stops, but where your resilience begins. Because setbacks don't arrive to destroy you. They come to show you, to expose what you haven't yet strengthened, to reveal what momentum was hiding. And in those moments, when the spotlight disappears and the crowd is gone, that's when your character steps forward. Not when it's easy, but when it's earned. Imagine a fighter in the gym, absorbing blow after blow, not because he enjoys the pain, but because he knows the pain prepares him. Every bruise, every stumble, every jab is part of the process. Every misstep is still a step forward if he learns. You're no different. Life will hit, and when it does, you have a choice, fold or focus. For some, failure causes retreat. For others, it's refinement. You step back not to quit, but to regroup, to ask the hard questions. What is this teaching me? Where can I grow? That mindset becomes your compass. It transforms pain into progress. It takes defeat and turns it into development. Most stop when their result doesn't match their effort. But you're not most. You rise again and again, not from ego, but from purpose, because you know this isn't punishment, it's preparation. And if you walk through it the right way, you come out stronger, sharper, and more unshakable than ever. So ask yourself, what if this isn't failure, but training? How would you respond then? What would you build in the meantime? The answers to those questions will define your recovery, and your recovery will define your legacy. Because you don't grow by always getting it right. You grow by never letting the setback keep you down. You grow by meeting each hit not with shame, but with self-respect. That's how you become someone life can't break. Because you no longer fear the fall, you've mastered how to rise from it. And every time you rise higher. That's the cost of choosing courage over comfort. Comfort wraps itself around you like a warm blanket. It whispers, stay here, stay safe, stay small. It convinces you there's no need to reach, no need to stretch, no need to risk. And if you listen long enough, you start believing that stillness is safety. But the truth is, comfort doesn't protect you. It limits you. It dulls your edge. It puts a ceiling on your potential. Courage, it burns, it pulls, it demands. But inside that discomfort is everything you've been looking for. Confidence, power, growth. Not the fake kind that comes from pretending to be fearless, but the real kind that comes from walking through fear and realizing it never owned you. Courage doesn't erase fear. It just moves anyway. You felt both the comfort calling you to stay the same and the fire pulling you to become more. You felt the fear of failure and the quiet voice that says, do it anyway. That voice that stirs the calling, that's your path. And it's only found by those who choose discomfort over stagnation and courage over comfort. You've had moments where the easy path stood wide open before you, no resistance, no fear, just comfort. And yet something deeper inside you pointed toward the harder road. That quiet pull, that's the voice of courage. And every time you followed it, you didn't come back the same. You came back changed, stronger, clearer, more you. Picture yourself at a crossroads. One direction is smooth and familiar. You know exactly where it leads. No surprises, no discomfort. The other is unclear, foggy, and unpredictable. But something inside you responds to it, not loud, but firm. That pull toward the unknown isn't foolishness. It isn't recklessness. It's honesty. That path, the uncertain one, that's where your strength is forged. Not in comfort, but in alignment. And the more you choose it, the more you begin to trust yourself, to discover your own edge. There is a cost to always choosing comfort. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It sneaks in. It settles into your bones as regret. You start to wonder what could have happened if you had spoken up, stepped forward, said yes instead of no. That ache, the ache of what if, lasts far longer than any discomfort courage ever brings. So you ask yourself every single day, am I choosing ease or expansion? Because real growth doesn't come from coasting. It comes from showing up when it's hard, when it's risky, when it tests your limits. That's where resilience is born. That's how strength is earned. Courage is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens with use. The more you use it, the more you become the kind of person who doesn't wait for fear to vanish. You move with it. You stop shrinking when life pushes you, expand. You don't flinch, you rise. That's who you're becoming. Not soft with comfort, but strong with fire. And just as growth asks you to be courageous, it also asks you to let go. Growth doesn't just demand addition, it demands subtraction. To move forward, you must be willing to release what no longer fits. Old beliefs, outdated routines, broken habits, even relationships you've outgrown. They may have served you once, but not now. Clinging to them doesn't make you loyal. It makes you stuck. The pull of the familiar is strong. It feels safe. It feels known. But don't mistake comfort for alignment. You can feel at home in a place that's quietly suffocating your evolution. You can stay loyal to a version of yourself that no longer reflects who you are or who you're becoming. Every level of growth requires a letting go. It's not loss. It's a trade. You release the old to make space for the new. You've changed. You're not who you were 5 years ago. You've seen more. You've endured more. You've learned. But too often, we still live by the rules of a former self. We drag the past behind us, wondering why progress feels so heavy. Picture running a race with stones in your pockets. Each stone is something you've outgrown, a limiting belief that says you're not good enough, a destructive habit that numbs your potential, a relationship built for a person you no longer are. The race doesn't feel hard because the road is steep. It feels hard because of the weight you refuse to drop. Letting go feels like loss at first. It brings fear. What if I need this later? What if I'm wrong? What if I end up with nothing? A release is not abandonment, it's preparation. It's the act of clearing space for something better. It's choosing not to pour your energy into what no longer fuels your growth. So ask yourself honestly, what am I holding on to that's holding me back? What belief, habit, or tie do I cling to not because it strengthens me, but because it's familiar? These questions are hard, but they're also liberating. They unlock clarity. They help you drop what weighs you down so you can finally move with freedom. You're not here to carry everything. You're here to rise, to build, to evolve. And evolution always demands surrender, not surrender to weakness, but to wisdom. When you start to see letting go not as loss, but as design, you stop clinging and start expanding. You make room. You create clarity. You unlock the next version of you, the version waiting just beyond what you're afraid to. Release. And all of it begins with one core practice: self-respect. Respect isn't demanded. It's demonstrated. It's not loud. It doesn't yell. It lives in your actions, in your standards, in how to carry yourself when no one's watching, in how to speak to yourself when you fall short, in how you hold your posture when things don't go your way. Self-respect isn't about dominance. It's about dignity. Until you built it within, nothing you get from others will ever feel whole. The world learns how to treat you by watching how to treat yourself. If you cut corners, if you abandon your values, if you chase validation from people who wouldn't even reach for you in return, you're not earning respect. You're inviting disappointment. But when you walk in discipline, when you honor your word quietly, when you live with internal alignment instead of external applause, people notice. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because you've already chosen to respect yourself, not because you beg for attention, but because your standards speak without a word. People feel your presence. You don't demand to be seen. You become someone worth noticing, and that doesn't mean being loud. It means being grounded. It means showing up on time when no one's watching, doing the right thing when no one's rewarding you, honoring your word when it would be easier to break it. When you walk away from what disrespects you, even if it costs you something, that's when self-respect deepens. That's when the world begins to treat you differently, not because you told them to, but because you showed them how. Picture standing at a crossroads. One path offers comfort, popularity, the easy chance to be liked if you're willing to bend, to betray small pieces of yourself along the way. The other is quiet. It might be lonely, but it demands truth. It asks you to stay aligned with your values, to stand tall even when the crowd walks the other way. That second path, that's where peace lives, not comfort, not convenience, but deep, unshakable peace. The kind that whispers, you didn't trade your soul for applause. And every time you choose that road, every time you act in a way that honors who you are becoming, you build real power. The kind that doesn't beg to be heard. It's the kind that speaks in silence. It doesn't try to convince, because it already knows where it stands. Slowly, without forcing anything, the world adjusts. People rise or fall around you based on the quiet integrity you carry. So ask yourself often, does this action honor me? Am I living as someone I admire, or just someone they'll like? Because the goal isn't approval, it's alignment. And when your life aligns with your values, you become unshakable. You don't have to demand respect, you become it. Now take that same mindset into your work. Find joy in the effort itself. Work is not a burden meant to break you. It's the ground where you shape yourself. The early mornings, the long hours, the repetition, they're not weights. They're the forge, the place where your will is tested and your character is built. Discipline isn't the enemy of joy, it's the doorway to it. Because when your effort is rooted in purpose, even the hardest days carry meaning. Even the quiet becomes sacred. You stop viewing the grind as suffering and start seeing it as sacred exchange. Your time, your focus, your energy for the life you're building. The world will tell you to chase ease. That happiness arrives only after the job is done, after the reward, after the weekend. But that's a lie. Joy doesn't live at the finish line. It lives in the work, in the early alarms and the quiet progress, in the unnoticed wins no one claps for. Real joy doesn't depend on outcomes, it's born from presence. It's found in doing what matters and doing it well, regardless of who's watching. Think of the field bare and hard before the season begins. The plow cuts deep, the soil splits open, but the field doesn't curse the blade. It welcomes it, because it knows the cut makes room for something greater. You're no different. You may be in a season where the grind feels endless, where recognition is missing, where the question, is this worth it, lingers in your mind. But this is the very soil where your future is being planted. This is where your roots go deep. This is where you earn your own respect. Picture it, the quiet satisfaction at the end of a long, honest day, the ache in your bones, the calm in your mind, not exhaustion, but fulfillment. You didn't wait for applause. You didn't wait for ideal conditions. You showed up. You gave your best. And now you understand something most people never do: pride. That doesn't need an audience. Joy in its truest form. So ask yourself, am I dragging myself through the day, waiting for joy to arrive? Or am I bringing it into everything I touch? Because when you bring gratitude into your grind, something shifts. The hard work doesn't feel like suffering, it feels like building. Every repetition, every unnoticed effort, every small act becomes part of your evolution. You stop resenting the climb and start respecting the view it leads to. Joy isn't found in escape. It's found in engagement. And when you carry it with you, effort no longer drains you. It empowers you, because now every step, whether hard or easy, loud or silent, is no longer about achievement. It's about becoming the kind of person who finds peace in the work itself. That's when nothing can stop you. Not fatigue, not failure, not even silence. Because you've already decided the work is sacred, and so are you. But none of that power can exist without one essential skill: presence. You may be in the room, but your mind is somewhere else. Your body moves, but your thoughts are 10 steps ahead or 10 steps behind. You answer someone, but only half listen. You start one task, already thinking about the next. And in that constant mental scattering, something valuable slips away. Not just focus, but life. Not just clarity, but peace. Because you cannot be powerful if you're never truly present. You can't feel your instincts. You can't lead others, or even yourself. Your attention is your edge. When it's fractured, everything falters. Presence is power. Quiet, focused power. It's the ability to be fully where your feet are, unshaken by what was, unconcerned with what might be. It's not mystical. It's not reserved for monks or gurus. It's a skill, and like any skill, it's trainable. One breath at a time. Each time your mind drifts and you gently bring it back, that's control. That's discipline. That's strength. Noticing your distraction isn't failure, it's mastery. That's how you reclaim your moment before it passes. Picture walking a quiet path. The sky is burning gold. A breeze cuts through the trees. The world is offering stillness, but your mind is elsewhere, replaying regrets, worrying futures. And just like that, the moment is gone. Not because it ended, but because you weren't there to receive it. So ask yourself, when was the last time I gave someone my full attention? The last time I did something, anything, without rushing to the next. That's where life is lived. Not in the future, not in the past, but here, now. You master presence by anchoring yourself in what's real, the breath in your body, the warmth in your hands, the weight of your footsteps on the ground. That's how you regain clarity. That's how you reclaim power. And that's how you start showing up not just as someone going through the motions, but as someone who is truly here, present, engaged, alive. These details aren't distractions from the big picture. They are the picture. Life isn't hiding somewhere. Down the road, it's happening right now. You don't need more time. You don't need to earn extra hours. You just need to fully show up for the time you already have. And when you do, everything begins to shift. You become sharper. The noise inside you quiets. You feel more connected not just to others, but to yourself. People sense it. You sense it. Because distraction doesn't just steal your time, it drains your energy and dulls your impact. But presence is your way back. Back to peace. Back to clarity. Back to the version of you that isn't scattered or restless, but grounded and unshakable. So begin now, not tomorrow, not when things slow down, but right here in your next breath. This is where your power lives. Strengthening the discipline of speech begins with understanding this truth. Your words carry weight, whether you intend them to or not. They land with force, with tone, with impact, and once released, you can't pull them back. Yet so many toss words carelessly, like sparks in a dry forest, never realizing the fires they might ignite. Anger speaks fast. Ego speaks loud. But wisdom speaks last. It waits. It observes. It chooses. Because when you understand the power of your voice, you stop using it to fill silence. You start using it to shape space. There's strength in restraint, in pausing, and allowing the breath to settle the storm inside you before a single word escapes. That pause isn't weakness, it's control, and in speech, that kind of control is a mastery few ever develop. The loudest person in the room isn't the strongest, they're often just the most reactive. True power lives in the one who speaks with clarity, with precision, with intent. Think of a seasoned craftsman. He doesn't swing wildly. He lines up the nail, feels the weight of the tool, and strikes once with purpose. That's how your speech should feel: clean, deliberate, and built to last. Because every time you speak, you're building something, a connection, a reputation, a legacy. One sentence can leave a scar, but one sentence can also heal. One line, spoken with presence, can inspire a life. So ask yourself before you speak, does this need to be said? Am I serving peace or feeding ego? If you're not sure, wait. Time has a way of showing you what matters and what's just a moment of impulse. Not every thought deserves a voice. Not every argument requires a reply. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's choosing your peace over proving a point. Asterisk, imagine being the person who doesn't rush to respond, who doesn't entertain gossip, who doesn't raise their voice just to feel heard. And yet, when they speak, the room quiets, not because they shout, but because their words are rare and real. That's influence born from discipline. Speak less, but mean more. Let your voice be a tool for building, not a weapon for damage. Let it be part of your legacy, not your undoing. Making peace with imperfection begins when you finally drop the illusion that you need to get everything right. You've tried to smooth every edge, fix every flaw, and hit every mark without misstep. You've told yourself that if you just performed perfectly, said the right words, made the right choices, then you'd finally feel like you're enough. But perfection is a ghost. It's always just one more improvement away. And the chase doesn't free you, it wears you out. It turns growth into pressure, learning into fear, effort into exhaustion. Peace isn't waiting at the end of a flawless track record. It's found in this simple truth. You're enough right now, even as you grow. You're not finished and you're not supposed to be. You'll stumble. You'll speak too soon or stay quiet too long. But that doesn't make you broken. That makes you human, and being human means missteps are part of the process. They're the raw material of your becoming. Think of a potter shaping clay. The form isn't perfect. Maybe the edges are uneven, the shape unexpected, but the pot isn't ruined, it's alive. It has character. It has soul. Your life is no different. Your scars, your awkward in between, your failed attempts, they don't diminish your value. They shape your story. Real strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising without shame. Looking at the mess with a half smile and saying, okay, let's try again. It's forgiving yourself for yesterday while staying committed to better choices tomorrow. Yes, growth is noble, but perfection, that's heavy. You weren't built to carry that burden. So ask yourself, when I fall short, do I punish myself or do I honor the lesson hiding in the pain? Because if you spend your life trying to never make a mistake, you'll miss the very experiences that make you stronger. The slip holds clarity. The error holds power. The rebound births resilience. Let others chase the illusion, polishing their lives, hiding their flaws behind performance. You choose something truer. You show up raw, real, and honest. Proud not because you've arrived, but because you never stopped trying. That's where peace lives, not in the polish, but in the process. You're still becoming, still shaping the form with clay-covered hands, and that's not a weakness. That's the beauty of the work. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to be true. And when you stop chasing perfect and start honoring real, you'll finally breathe. And in that breath, you'll find yourself. These questions aren't meant to shame you, they're meant to liberate you. Because once you take ownership of your role in what's unfolded, you take ownership of what comes next. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. You don't need everything to be perfect before you begin. You just need to take the reins, to look honestly at the broken pieces and say, this is where I start. And something shifts when you do. You're no longer stuck. You're no longer waiting. You're building with what you have from where you are. The person who takes full responsibility for their life, no matter how messy, becomes the author of what comes next. And that's the kind of power no one can take from you. Separating emotion from identity begins with this truth. What you feel is real, but it's not who you are. Emotions swell, sadness, frustration, rage, they rise like waves, unexpected and overwhelming. And in those moments, without realizing, you label yourself. I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm broken. But pause, is that truly your identity or simply what you're experiencing? Emotions are powerful. They fill rooms, change tones, and bend time. But they're not the core of you. They're weather intense, yes, but temporary. You, on the other hand, are the sky, steady, expansive, still there long after the storm passes. The problem is, most people don't see the difference. They confuse repetition with identity. Feel anger often enough, and suddenly they become an angry person. Sit with sadness long enough, and they believe this is just who I am. But identity doesn't live in frequency. It lives in awareness and the quiet realization that you are not your feelings. You are the one who notices the feeling and chooses what comes next. Picture yourself in a downpour. The sky is dark, rain soaking. Through your clothes, wind biting your skin. You're cold, wet, and uncomfortable, but you know you're not the rain. You're the one standing in it. The storm will end. The sun will return. That's how emotions work. You honor them, feel them, but don't build a home in them. This isn't about suppressing how you feel. It's about putting space between your feeling and your action. It's the difference between I feel anxious and I'm anxiety. That space, that pause, is where your clarity lives, where your freedom begins. Think about your last reaction. Did it come from a moment of inner chaos or from inner calm? Were you driven by a feeling that will pass tomorrow or a truth that stands across time? When you react out of emotion, you often create damage you later have to repair. But when you respond from clarity, you move with intention, not impulse. The shift is subtle, but powerful. You stop letting momentary moves write permanent chapters. You stop letting fleeting emotion direct your relationships, your choices, your life. You lead yourself not by ignoring your emotions, but by refusing to let them define you. You are not the anger. You are the one who notices the anger and chooses your next step, and in that choice lies power. In the space between reaction and reflection, you become sovereign, anchored, not tossed by every wave, but rooted in who you really are. If you leave soil untouched, nature will fill it not with fruit, but with weeds. The same truth applies to your thoughts. If you don't deliberately tend to them, the loudest, most persistent voices will take over. Whether or not they deserve your attention, and they often don't. Without intention, distraction becomes the ruler. If you want peace, you must plan it deliberately. If you want clarity, you must create space for it to grow. It doesn't arrive by accident. It comes from being conscious of what you consume, what you repeat, and what you choose to believe. Because not every thought is true. Not every feeling is a fact. Some are just noise passing through your awareness, echoing from the chaos outside. And your real strength lies not in believing everything you think, but in knowing which thoughts to let pass quietly. Imagine your mind is a fortress not guarded out of fear, but protected out of respect. You don't throw the gates open for every voice that walks by. You don't let every fear, every rumor, and every memory of failure flood in and set up camp. You decide what enters. You decide what stays. You feed your mind discipline, not distraction. You give it moments of silence, not constant noise. You don't welcome every anxious thought. You don't allow resentment to unpack and build a home. Because when your mind is clear, when it's clean, focused, and protected, there's very little in the external world that can truly disturb it. There's a solidness inside you that doesn't get shaken every time something outside shifts. So ask yourself throughout the day, what am I allowing in right now? Is this thought serving me? Or is it stealing from me? Is it lifting me or pulling me down? Is it encouraging my growth or keeping me small? These questions sharpen your self-awareness. They carve out space between you and the chaos. And within that space, you reclaim your freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to take the reins back, because the real battle isn't happening out there. It's happening within. If your inner world is solid, calm, and anchored, then even the stormiest circumstances lose their power over you. You choose what you entertain. You decide what takes root. So treat your mind like sacred ground. Not everything deserves to grow there. Be ruthless in what you allow. Be thoughtful in what you plant. Because over time, with consistency, that inner garden will bloom quietly, deeply, and unshakably. Now let's talk about patience, the quiet strength that almost no one celebrates, but everyone needs. Patience doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't grab headlines, but don't confuse that calm for weakness. Patience is one of the most powerful forces you can carry with you. It means you don't flinch at delay. You don't fold under pressure. You don't chase what isn't yet meant for you. You breathe deeply when the world speeds up. You stay still when everything says run. Patience is the deep-rooted trust that what's yours will arrive, and it will arrive at the exact moment it's meant to, not a minute sooner. In a world obsessed with urgency, where speed is seen as success and noise is mistaken for progress, patience feels like rebellion. Everyone wants instant results, instant answers, and instant wins. But rushing doesn't bring wisdom. Rushing brings mistakes. It clouds judgment. It creates shallow wins. And it builds things that crumble under pressure. Patience, by contrast, gives you space. It allows you to grow into who you're meant to become. It lets you learn the rhythm of your journey and strike with precision, not from panic, but from clarity. Imagine the archer. He doesn't fire the arrow just because the crowd is watching or the clock is ticking. He waits. He breathes. He feels the weight of the bow, the direction of the wind. He adjusts his stance, and when it's right, truly right, he lets go. That's not hesitation. That's wisdom. That's control. That's mastery earned through trust in the process, not obedience to pressure. Living with patience means you stop rushing for answers. You stop needing constant reassurance that you're on the right path. You begin to understand that timing matters more than speed. A decision made too early can do more harm than a decision made slowly, but with purpose. You stop gripping every moment like it's slipping away. You learn to hold space for things to unfold naturally. Ask yourself, truthfully, am I moving from clarity or from anxiety? Am I pushing forward just to feel like I'm in control? Or can I sit in stillness long enough to let things rise in their own time? Because there's a massive difference between momentum and panic, between real progress and the illusion of it. The patient man knows the value of time not just in waiting, but in watching, in preparing, in knowing when to act and when to be still. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what matters when it matters for the right reasons. It's a long-term mindset, a deeper commitment to becoming someone steady rather than someone impressive. And when others burn out from chasing the hard or pushing too fast, you'll still be there calm, grounded, and moving with unshakable focus. So don't fear the pause. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. Let it be proof of your depth. You're not here for the sprint. You're here for the long game. And when you master patience, you're not just mastering how to wait. You're mastering timing, and timing will always carry you farther than speed. Now, let's talk about the rhythm of your life, how you move through your day, and how that rhythm determines your destiny. The day begins, and before you've even found your center, it's already slipping away. Notifications ping, demands pile up, expectations press against your skin. The world tugs at your sleeve, and suddenly you're behind before you've even begun. It's so easy to fall into that pattern, react, respond, hustle, repeat. But somewhere inside, you know, this isn't life. This is survival. And if you're not intentional, your days become weeks, your weeks become years, and your whole life blurs into motion without meaning. You were not born for that. But what if you rewrote that story? What if you ruled your time instead of being ruled by it? You can't slow the clock. You can't add hours to the day. But you do get one radical, powerful gift every single morning: the ability to choose, the ability to command your time rather than chase it. That's your leverage. That's your leadership. Because how you spend your hours is how you spend your life. Every choice is a seed, every moment an investment. Some people invest their time in growth, purpose, alignment. Others waste it on reaction, distraction, and confusion. The difference isn't luck, it's intention. It's owning the day before the day owns you. Picture the builder. He doesn't make a grand announcement. He doesn't post about his progress. He just shows up every day and lays a single brick, carefully, deliberately, day after day, brick after brick, and over time. He doesn't just build a wall, he builds a fortress. That's what discipline with time looks like. Quiet, strong, unshakable. You can do the same, not with bricks, but with focused hours, with clear intention, with a refusal to let life drag you in every direction. Ask yourself, who's steering my day? Is it me, or is it the noise? Am I designing my schedule, or am I living inside someone else's? Because if you don't protect your time, someone else will use it. The urgent will always shove aside the important. And if you're not mindful, you'll spend your whole life being busy and never truly fulfilled. To reclaim your time, you don't need a miracle. You need a method. Purpose isn't found in the chaos. It's carved out with clarity. It's built with discipline. And it's guarded like your future depends on it, because it does. It means establishing your priorities and guarding them like the foundation of your future. Because that's exactly what they are. It means being able to say no when a request veers you off course. It means intentionally setting aside time for your ambitions, your personal development, and your mental and physical health. It means respecting every hour of your day as if it matters deeply, because it absolutely does. The moment you take command of your time, everything begins to shift. The distractions that once pulled you in all directions start to lose their grip. You're no longer reacting to life's chaos because your path is already set. You walk through your hours with a calm sense of certainty, not scattered in all directions. You begin to feel aligned, not just busy, but aligned. This is your moment. This is your life. And when you take ownership of your time, you begin to take ownership of your entire story. Be intentional with your hours. Be methodical in your structure. Be fiercely protective of what earns your attention, and simultaneously, be compassionate with yourself when things don't go according to plan. Because true mastery isn't about dominating every tick of the clock. It's about mastering your focus. It's about showing up each day as though your time is precious, because it is. And so are you. Let's talk about rejecting the victim mindset. Life will hurt you. Things will fall apart. People you trust will let you down. Commitments will dissolve. Carefully laid plans will unravel. And sometimes life will deliver a blow so brutal, all you can do is breathe through the sting. In those moments, the temptation to point outward is strong, to cast blame, to wait for anyone to notice your pain and lift you from it. But the harsh and liberating truth is this: no one is coming to save you. That truth isn't meant to crush you, it's meant to empower you, because the moment you stop waiting to be rescued, you awaken to the power you've had all along. You see clearly that while the past can't be rewritten, the future is unwritten and you hold the pen. That's where transformation begins. There's a quiet but powerful freedom in refusing to live as a victim, not because you deny what's happened, not because you pretend it didn't hurt, but because you make a conscious decision not to remain there. You choose to rise. You choose to own what you can, especially when it's hard, especially when it's not your fault. You can't control the actions of others. You can't erase betrayal. You can't reverse the heartbreak or undo the misstep, but you can choose whether those moments define your identity or fuel your evolution. Visualize someone standing alone in the pouring rain. They didn't summon the storm. They didn't cause the clouds, yet they're soaked just the same. They could stand there screaming at the sky, cursing the downpour, waiting for someone to pull them inside, or they could move. They could search for shelter. They could learn from it, and next time, they'll come prepared. One of those choices will drain your energy. The other will build your strength. We all know what it feels like to blame, to fixate on the wrong, to rematch the memory on a loop. But blaming doesn't solve anything. It provides a fleeting sense of comfort and then steals your momentum. It steals your clarity. Growth cannot coexist with excuses. And if you want genuine power, the kind that changes lives, you must be willing to trade blame for action. In those heated moments of frustration, ask yourself, am I fixated on the reason I can't, or am I building the path toward how I will? One of those questions anchors you in place. The other moves you forward. Responsibility isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it feels like swallowing fire, but it clears the fog. It returns your hands to the wheel. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to have all the answers. You simply need to make a decision that your pain won't narrate your story, that your voice will rise above the setback, that you'll build something lasting out of what tried to break you. Victimhood hands your power to the world. Responsibility takes it back. It says, I may not have chosen these circumstances, but I choose how I respond to them. And from that moment on, you stop merely surviving your story. You start rewriting it. Let's ground this in simplicity. The world tells you peace is found in more. More applause, more recognition, more hustle, more stuff. Society sells a fantasy that fulfillment is always just beyond reach. One step further, one more purchase, one more achievement. And so, we run, we accumulate, we chase, we pack our days and fill our minds. But the more we take on, the heavier it all becomes. The more we chase, the harder it is to feel content. Here's the truth. Peace doesn't come from accumulation, it comes from elimination. Peace isn't found when you finally have everything. It arrives when you realize how little you truly need. Simplicity is misunderstood. People think it's about emptiness, but it's the opposite. Simplicity is presence. Simplicity is precision. It's about choosing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. It's the ability to know the difference between what enriches your life and what just weighs it down. Picture stepping into a tiny cabin in the middle of nowhere. There's no noise, no clutter, no distractions, just space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to be. Everything inside serves a purpose. There's no excess. Nothing's there just for show. In that space, clean, focused, and intentional, You feel your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens. Your mind clears. You feel anchored. That sensation doesn't come from the cabin, it comes from the absence of everything unnecessary. Now, turn your gaze to your own life. Look at your calendar. Look at your thoughts. Look at your physical space. How much of it is truly serving you? How much of it is noise disguised as necessity? What are you holding on to simply because it's familiar? The weight of excess builds slowly. A little overcommitment here, a little comparison there, and before you know it, you're drained, overwhelmed, and wondering why peace feels so distant. Letting go is not easy. We convince ourselves that what we've gathered makes us worthy, secure, important. But more often, it just keeps us entangled. The strength isn't in the holding. It's in the releasing. It's in asking, does this still serve me? Does it align with who I want to become? And if not, why is it still here? Simplicity isn't about having less ambition. It's about having clearer ambition. It's focusing your energy on what actually fuels you, not what merely fills your time. It's about having less, but living more, speaking less, but saying more, doing less, but becoming more. When you strip away the unnecessary, you stop being pulled by everything. You become centered. You become intentional. And in that clarity, you unlock a rare kind of power, the kind that isn't thrown off by distractions, the kind that doesn't buckle under pressure, and the kind that knows exactly where it's going and refuses to carry anything that doesn't belong on the journey, because peace doesn't live in more, it lives in enough. And when you finally start living like that's true, you create the space for what truly matters to enter your life. And in a world that's loud and reactionary, staying rooted while others are triggered becomes your strength. Let the world flash with anger, let opinions clash like thunder, but you stay grounded. There are moments in life that seem intentionally designed to provoke you, a cutting remark, a casual insult, a sudden injustice. These are the moments that practically beg you to respond, to snap, to lash out, and to react impulsively. The temptation is immediate. The invitation is loud. But here's the truth. You don't have to accept it. You have another choice, a stronger one. You can choose stillness. Stillness is not weakness. It's not avoidance or surrender. It is presence in its highest form. It is strength refined into restraint. It's the conscious decision to stay grounded when everything around you tries to shake your spirit. Stillness is the act of refusing to let someone else's chaos disrupt the weather in your own mind. Most people can't manage it. They rise with heat, respond with fire, and get pulled into every emotional storm like dry leaves in the wind. But you're not here to be moved by every gust of drama. You're not here to react to everything that shakes the surface. You're here to hold your ground. Imagine a lone tree standing in the center of a violent storm. The sky is wild. The rain crashes down, wind thrashes its branches, leaves tear away, the outer appearance bends. But the tree stands tall, unbroken, not because it fights the storm, but because its roots run deep, because it trusts the ground beneath it. That is your potential, not to silence the world, but to stay unmoved by its noise, not to win every argument, but to rise above them with clarity. The world will throw noise your way, distractions, arguments, temptations to prove yourself, constant attempts to pull you off center. But not every comment deserves your reply, not every insult deserves your energy, and certainly not every battle deserves your presence. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is no statement at all, not because you're afraid, but because you've made peace your standard, because you've stopped living for applause and started living from alignment, because you've outgrown the need to prove what's already known within you. When someone throws their pain at you, when they want a reaction, when they need your energy to validate their own chaos, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what do I really gain from reacting? What do I risk by not? And then ask the deeper question, what am I protecting by remaining still? Your clarity, your peace, your direction, your self-respect. Stillness is not silence rooted in fear. It is silence grounded in wisdom. You don't need to speak loudly to be powerful. You don't need to mirror someone's instability to prove your presence. Calm carries its own undeniable energy, and people notice it. They feel it. They lean into it not because you force them to, but because stillness demands respect all on its own. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means your words are chosen, not triggered. It means your reactions are guided by intention, not ego. It means you understand the difference between protecting your pride and preserving your peace. So let the winds roar. Let the storms rise. Let others throw their fire. You stay grounded, stay rooted. Let them burn out. Let them shout into the void. You move in stillness. Because your calm isn't just a reaction, it's a message. It's a declaration. It says, I know who I am, and nothing outside of me has the power to change that. Now carry that into your daily rhythm. Because if you want to live intentionally, you must also pause intentionally. And that begins with making reflection a daily practice. Life doesn't slow down. Days blur. Goals pile up. The pace of everything demands that you move faster, produce more, and stay busy. And it's so easy to lose yourself in that motion, to push and push until you forget to stop. But without reflection, you're not living, you're just reacting. Reflection is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the pause that lets you learn. It's the mirror that shows you what the noise tries to hide. Without it, you repeat mistakes. You carry old wounds. You stay on autopilot. But with it, you become intentional. You grow on purpose. Take even 5 minutes. Sit in silence. Ask yourself not with judgment, but with curiosity. What moved me today? What drained me? What lit me up? Where did I show up strong? Where did I hold back out of fear? These aren't just questions. They're your compass, and the answers, they guide you. They sharpen you. They make each day mean something, because when you reflect, you don't just see the day. You see yourself within it. You understand what shaped you, what challenged you, what strengthened you. You begin to close your day not just exhausted, but aware. Not just surviving, but evolving. Reflection turns your routine into a ritual. It turns repetition into realization. You begin to notice the small wins. You catch the subtle shifts. You start to become the version of you that doesn't drift through life, but deliberately moves toward something greater. Most people don't do this. They race, they react, and they wake up only to run again. But you can be different. You can be still. You can be aware. You can be awake. Ask yourself each night, am I learning from my life or just enduring it? Because when you reflect, you grow. And when you grow, you stop reacting and start rising. And when you rise, you'll face rejection. That's part of the path. Rejection stings. It slices through you even when you expected it. A door slams, an opportunity fades. Someone says no, and for a moment, it feels like a verdict, like a declaration that you weren't good enough. But that isn't the truth. Rejection isn't a stop sign. It's a signpost, a reminder that you're trying, that you're alive, that you're willing to show up, that you're willing to stretch. And yes, stretching sometimes means missing people who never get rejected. They're not brave. They're not more successful. They're just safer. They haven't stepped far enough outside their comfort zone to hear no. But you have. That means something. Every rejection is proof that you have the courage to reach, and reaching is how growth begins. Imagine walking through a long corridor, knocking on door after door. Some never open, some crack slightly and slam shut, some echo in silence, but one opens. And the only way to find that one is to keep walking, to keep knocking. Every closed door is training. Every no sharpens your grit. Every failed attempt is feedback, not about your worth, but about your path. It tells you what didn't align so you can aim better next time, so you can refine, not retreat. You must remember, rejection does not mean failure. It means you're in motion. You're not standing still. You're doing what most people are too afraid to try. You can let rejection define you or refine you. You can let it close you off or open you up to something better. The decision is yours. So the next time you hear no, breathe it in. Feel it, let it sting, and then stand taller. Smile, if you must. Because that no didn't end you. It prepared you. One door closed means one step closer to the right one. One opportunity lost means you're no longer wasting time in the wrong place. One rejection deepens your resilience. It humbles your ego. It builds your fire. So keep knocking. Keep showing up. Keep choosing your path, even when others don't see your value. Because every no you endure is a step toward the yes that was meant for you. And when that door opens, you'll be ready. Not just because you wanted it, but because you earned it. The person who turns back at the first slammed door never realizes how close they were. Rejection isn't a final answer, it's a checkpoint, a mile marker on the road, not a dead end. And what truly matters isn't how many rejections you face, but how you respond to them. Do you absorb them? Let them chip away at your confidence like a slow erosion? Or do you pause, analyze, and evolve? Not every rejection is about you. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's about the fit. Sometimes it's a reflection of someone else's short-sightedness, not your inadequacy. And even when the rejection is about you, it's not a reason to collapse. It's a signal, a mirror, an invitation to refine what needs refining. So when the answer is no, take a breath. Ask yourself honestly, was it my delivery? Was it the audience? Was it simply not the right season? These aren't excuses. They're assessments. They're data points. You're not meant to succeed on the first try. Every time, you're meant to learn what works, uncover what doesn't, and sharpen both with each attempt. It's easy to feel like rejection is a statement about your identity, as if it defines who you are, but it doesn't. Rejection rarely speaks to the entirety of your being. It speaks to a single moment, a pitch, a presentation, a match, one no. Doesn't decide your future unless you choose to make it final. If you choose instead to treat rejection as a teacher, not a judge, it becomes something powerful. It loses its sting and becomes a lesson. The more rejection you walk through, the less it controls you. You stop fearing it. You stop seeing it as a threat. You begin expecting it not with anxiety, but with acceptance, because now you understand. Rejection is part of the rhythm. It's the background noise to every meaningful pursuit. No one builds something lasting without first being told no, not once, but 100 times, maybe 1,000. There is no secret to avoiding rejection. There's only strength in how you choose to handle it. Stand up, take notes, adjust, keep walking, because the door that's meant for you won't need to be forced open. It will swing when you're ready and when the timing aligns. But you have to stay in motion, keep knocking, keep trusting the journey, even when the path winds and the lights go dim, because the truth is, rejection when handled well doesn't break you, it builds you. It sharpens your tools. It thickens your skin. It strengthens your resolve. It reminds you why you began in the first place, and it fuels your decision not to stop now. So no, rejection is not the end. It's the edge where the real journey begins. And those who master that edge, those who don't flinch when they're told no, they don't live in fear of rejection. They walk through it until they find the yes that was always meant for them. Letting your work speak for you in a world where voices rise just to be noticed, where people clamor to be seen. The quiet builder stands apart. They're not chasing the spotlight. They're not fueled by applause. Their fulfillment doesn't come from attention. It comes from the quiet, personal pride of a job done with excellence. While others post, pose, and perform, the builder simply builds, quietly, steadily, one brick at a time, one action after another, one moment of discipline layered upon the next. You've probably felt the pull before the urge to announce your effort, to show the world how hard you've been working, how much you've overcome, how skilled you really are. It's human. It's normal. But remember, praise fades, headlines blur, compliments disappear. Legacy isn't built with applause. It's built with discipline. The strongest people don't need to declare their strength. They've shown it over and over again. Their reputation wasn't broadcast. It was earned. It wasn't shaped by marketing. It was shaped by consistency, by dependability, by action. Imagine being that person, the one whose name is trusted without hesitation, the one others call upon, not because they shouted the loudest, but because they always showed up. Their reliability became their resume. Their effort became their brand. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to defend your value when your actions speak. You never need to raise your voice. You become known, not for noise, but for delivery, for being the one who always follows through. This kind of strength is rare because it's built in silence. It grows without instant validation. It's rooted in patience and a long game mindset. It takes a steady hand and a quiet confidence to give up the craving for attention and choose mastery instead. You don't waste energy on impressions. You spend it on improvement. You don't chase the spotlight. You chase skill. You chase greatness, and in doing so, you separate yourself, not by claiming to be the best, but by becoming it through action. There is power in silent dedication, in doing the work behind the curtain while the world is distracted by performance. Because eventually, the quality surfaces, the results speak, the outcomes tell the story. Even if no one says a word, they feel it. They remember. The one who delivered, the one who didn't complain, the one who didn't boast, but always came through. So ask yourself, am I building or performing? Am I curating a perfect image or cultivating real skill? One path is shallow, the other is solid. One depends on external validation, the other builds inner worth. And when you place your energy fully into your craft, your character, your discipline, everything shifts. The right people notice, the right doors open, and even if they don't, you rest easy, not because others approve, but because you know what you built is real. You become untouchable not out of arrogance, but out of assurance. You no longer need applause to feel accomplished. You don't wait for permission to be proud, because your pride isn't rented. It's rooted. It's earned. You know, deeply, I did the work. In a world addicted to attention, be the one addicted to excellence. Let others chase the fast likes. Let others scream for approval. You're not here for that. You're here to build what lasts, and lasting things don't make noise. They don't demand recognition. They just endure. They speak through their presence, through their strength, through their results. Let your work speak for you, because when the noise fades and the dust settles, it won't be the loudest voice that remains. It'll be the one who built the strongest foundation. You are not required to show up to every battle. You are not obligated to engage in every conflict. Silence, at times, is not the absence of power, it's its most authentic form. Anyone can yell, anyone can argue, but it takes deeper strength to walk away when your pride is tested and your patience is provoked. Drama has a pull. It lures you with a whisper that says, speak up, set the record straight. Don't let them get away with that. It tells you you'll feel better if you respond, if you defend yourself, if you retaliate. But that's a lie, because what do you truly gain by stepping into that noise? You lose time. You lose your inner calm. You lose clarity. And for what? To win a fight that was never worth it to begin with. Conflict has a cost. And while some battles are necessary, most are just emotional drain taxes on your mind, your heart, and your direction with no return on investment. You have to start asking yourself, not just can I win this, but is it even worth it? Is this worthy of the energy it will consume, the peace it will steal, and the focus it will scatter? Imagine a peaceful village, lush, quiet, thriving. Life there is still and centered. Now picture a fire raging just outside its border. Some people will rush toward the flames, convinced it's their responsibility to extinguish it. Others stay grounded, focus on their own ground, knowing that not every fire requires their water. That's your daily choice. You are allowed to walk away from the fire, from gossip, from petty squabbles, from those who feed on drama, and live off your reactions. You're not heartless for doing so. You're not avoiding conflict out of fear. You're exercising wisdom because you know now your energy is not unlimited. Your focus isn't free. And every moment spent explaining yourself to someone determined to misunderstand you is a moment taken from your growth, your creativity, your peace. Walking away isn't weakness. It's sovereignty. It's claiming your throne. It's the decision to protect what's within instead of constantly defending it from what's outside. You are not shutting others out. You are choosing to honor your center. This isn't about being passive. It's about being precise. You will still speak up when it counts. You will still stand tall when it matters. But you will choose carefully. And that choice, that discernment, is the difference between being reactive and being resilient. Some won't understand. They may call your silence weakness. Let them. Let them think your calm is retreat. Let them believe your stillness is defeat. You will know the truth. You'll feel the strength in carrying your silence like a shield. In walking with peace while others throw sparks, you'll see that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it walks quietly away. In heated moments, ask yourself, what am I really defending? Is this about truth, or is this about ego? Am I protecting something real, or am I reacting because I want to be heard? If your answer returns you to stillness, then stillness is your answer. Peace is not passive. It is a decision, a position, a posture of power. It's what you choose when the world expects you to break and you don't. When people provoke, you remain grounded. When others shout, and you simply don't. Not because you're weak, but because you've already decided that your energy isn't up for sale, that your peace isn't on the market, that your focus is sacred, and not every insult, every slight, every disagreement deserves a place inside your world. Protect your peace like it's priceless, because it is. Once you stop handing it out to every critic and conflict, you begin to live differently. You rise above the noise, and in a world addicted to outrage, your calm becomes thunder. Living aligned with your highest self, there is a version of you that you deeply admire. Not the one shaped by fear or urgency or the need to perform, but the version rooted in truth, grounded, quiet, certain. That version doesn't chase approval. It doesn't morph to fit in. It stands firm, unwavering, clear, and even though the world constantly pulls you in every direction, that version, your truest self, never loses its way. You've felt it before. In those rare, luminous moments when you made a choice not because it was easy, but because it was right. You felt it when you acted with integrity, even when no one saw. When you spoke truth, even when a lie would have made things smoother. When you said no with grace, even though yes would have been more comfortable. In those moments, you didn't just act. You aligned. You remembered who you are. You stepped into the person you respect most. That version already lives within you. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need clarity to return to who you were before the noise tried to rewrite your worth. This journey isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. The path back to yourself is paved with small, honest acts. It's in speaking truth even when bending it would be easier. It's in honoring your word even when no one holds you to it. It's in the way you show up especially when it's hard. Every decision made in integrity is a vote of confidence in who you are becoming. And each time you follow through, even when it's uncomfortable, you reinforce your own trust in yourself. And that trust, that's everything. Because when you trust yourself, you don't need applause to know you're enough. You don't need nods of approval to feel solid. You're guided by your own compass, not by trends, not by noise, not by pressure. Yes, convenience will whisper. It will tempt you. It will say, just this once. No one will notice. But every choice matters. Every compromise creates distance between you and your best self. And that distance, it costs peace because it's impossible to feel whole when you're living against your values. Ask yourself often and honestly, is this choice aligned with the best in me, or is it just easy right now? The answer might not be comfortable, but it will be clear, and clarity is sacred. It's the voice that says ease isn't always the way, and right isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. This isn't about never making mistakes. It's about recovering faster. It's about being so rooted in truth that when you fall, you rise with grace, that when things go wrong, you don't collapse because your roots run deep. It's about showing up the way the version of you admire most would, not with grand declarations, not with drama, but with steady consistency. In the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, especially when no one's clapping. And slowly, something shifts. The craving to impress fades. The desire to perform dissolves. Because you're no longer driven by how others see you. You're guided by how you see yourself. When you live in alignment, the distractions lose power. The critics grow quiet. The fear no longer controls you. You become untouchable not because you've become flawless, but because you've become whole. And in that wholeness, you find peace. In that peace, you discover strength. And in that strength, you return home to yourself. Fully, finally, exactly as you were always meant to be. Responding with grace under fire doesn't build your character, it exposes it. When life is smooth, when people are kind, your path is clear, anyone can look composed. But the real test comes when everything falls apart, when you're caught off guard, when someone crosses a line you never thought they would. That's when the true version of you steps forward. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can let the fire take over, let your ego ignite, let anger drive the wheel. Or you can remain calm, not frozen in fear, but steady in strength, grounded, clear. That's grace in the heat, not weakness, not avoidance, but strength at its highest form. You've seen what happens when people cave under stress, when voices escalate, when emotions explode, when a spark becomes a wildfire. But you've also seen the rare opposite, someone who holds their calm, speaks with measured tone, and carries poise while the world crumbles around them. That person doesn't need to scream to be heard. Their presence alone shifts the energy in the room. That's grace under fire, real time, real power. Grace under pressure doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means you see the chaos, and you refuse to become part of it. It's not silence for silence's sake. It's restraint. Choosing your words carefully, choosing your next step with intention. It's the courage to pause, even when your pride screams to strike back. It's the clarity to lead when everyone else is looking for someone to follow. Picture yourself in a crisis, conflict swirling, tension rising, and yet, there you are, breathing, present. Others notice not because you raised your voice, but because your calm commands attention. That's true influence. That's real leadership. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be seen. It earns its place through grace, through consistency, through self-mastery. Ask yourself in those pressured moments, do I rise with the chaos or rise above it? Do I let emotion steer the course, or do I take control with calm certainty? Anyone can throw fire back at fire, but to meet fire with grace, that's uncommon. That's powerful. That's strength of the highest order. It's easy to lash out, harder to stay kind. It's easy to lose control, much harder to hold on to it. But those who manage it, those who hold their center, carry a quiet confidence. That needs no explanation. They don't have to defend themselves. They've earned their respect, not through force, but through grace, and that kind of respect sticks. So when the fire comes, and it will let it reveal the strength you've built inside. Let it show the depth of your discipline, the stability of your values. Rage burns out, noise fades, but the respect earned through calm presence, that lasts. Let that be your standard, not perfection, but presence, not reaction, but clarity. Let the pressure reveal not just who you are, but who you're becoming, taking control of your inner dialogue. The loudest voice you'll ever hear isn't the world's. It's the one inside your own mind. It greets you in the morning. It follows you into every decision, every failure, and every moment of silence. It's not the external critics that shape your life the most. It's that internal voice, the one that narrates everything. If that voice is frantic, unforgiving, harsh, no amount of outside praise can stabilize you. But if that voice is rooted, clear, honest, and kind, it becomes your foundation. You can't control every voice around you. You can't stop the opinions, criticisms, or noise of the world. But you can train the one voice that matters most, your own. Because that voice, that's the one you hear most. That's the one you believe the most. If it's tearing you down, nothing else can lift you up. But if it's building you up with honesty and grace, no storm can truly shake you. Most people don't even realize how cruel they are to themselves. They replay their mistakes on loop. They magnify every flaw. They say things to themselves they'd never say to anyone else. They become their own enemy. But you can't grow stronger by beating yourself down. Confidence doesn't come from shame. If you're waiting to feel good enough before changing that voice, you'll be waiting forever. The shift happens when you choose to stop feeding the inner chaos. Think about how you start your mornings. Before the world speaks, you do. What's your first message? I'm behind. I'm not enough. Or is it, I'm building. I'm trying. I'm here, and I'm not giving up. That early message sets the tone. Imagine living with a voice inside that speaks like a wise coach. Direct, not cruel. Honest, not demeaning. It doesn't lie about your flaws. It just doesn't weaponize them. It says, yes, you fell, but you're still in the game. Let's go. That kind of voice becomes your anchor. This won't happen by accident. You have to train it. You have to catch yourself in moments of negative spirals and pull it back with intention. It's not about fake positivity. It's about discipline, choosing a voice that supports rather than sabotages you. Ask yourself, when you're frustrated, what's my voice doing right now? Is it guiding me forward or dragging me down? Is it calling me higher or punishing me for not being perfect? The difference matters because those small thoughts, they become your worldview. They shape how you respond to challenges. They build your mindset, and your mindset, it becomes your reality. You don't become grounded by accident. You become grounded by how to speak to yourself when no one's around. You build inner confidence not from ease, but from teaching your mind to be an ally in difficulty. If your mind has turned into your greatest critic, it's time to retrain it. Turn judgment into coaching. Turn chaos into focus. Turn noise into direction. This shift isn't instant, but it is lasting, because the voice you strengthen becomes the one you follow. And when you rewrite that inner dialogue, you begin to rewrite your life. Mastering the art of letting others be wrong. Someone misunderstands you. They assume. They misquote. They turn your words into weapons that were never meant to hurt. And your instinct, correct them, defend yourself, set the record straight, prove them wrong. But sometimes, the most powerful move is to let them be wrong. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that peace costs less than proving your point. Most people will never see the full truth because they're not looking. They've already made up their mind. They're invested in their version of you. And trying to convince them otherwise is like pouring water into a broken cup. It will never fill. It will only drain you. You are not obligated to chase every misunderstanding. You're not required to unpack every judgment. Sometimes silence is the strongest response, not because you're surrendering, but because you're protecting your energy. You've got things to build, people to love, a path to walk. You can't afford to pause it all just to argue with someone committed to not hearing you. So let them think what they want. Let them twist it. Let them misread it. You stay grounded. You stay building. Because your truth will outlast their opinion, and the right people, they'll know. They'll see. You don't have to explain yourself to be at peace with yourself. Let others misunderstand. Let them be wrong. You'll be too busy living a line to notice. Maybe they speak with confidence or worse, with cruelty, and suddenly, you feel it, that tension in your chest, that pull to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, the urge to speak up, to clear your name, to correct the record, to make them see just how far off they really are. You feel the sting of the accusation pressing against your pride. But what if you didn't respond? What if you let the misunderstanding remain, not out of fear, but out of strength? There's a profound kind of power in silence. Not silence as retreat, but silence as command. The kind that comes from knowing your truth so completely that you no longer need it repeated back to you. The kind that comes from being so grounded in who you are that outside noise doesn't require a reaction. The wise don't chase every opinion. They don't waste their energy on battles that don't matter. How many times have people spent hours, days, even arguing a point that didn't need to be proven at all? Engaging with people who never wanted to understand in the first place, debating not to gain clarity, but to serve ego. And even when they win, what did they really gain? They lose time, they lose calm, and they lose peace. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every battle deserves your presence. Real truth, if it's true, won't vanish just because it's doubted. It doesn't collapse under the weight of someone's willful blindness. And neither should you. Imagine standing steady while someone misreads your motives, twists your intent. You don't flinch. You don't explain. You stay grounded in your truth. That's not avoidance, that's power. That's knowing some people will remain committed to misunderstanding you, no matter what you say. And others, the ones who really matter, won't need an explanation at all. They already see you clearly. This isn't about being silent in the face of injustice. It's not about holding your tongue when your voice matters. It's about learning which battles are worth your breath. You begin to choose your words with care. You ask yourself, what will proving this really earn me? Will this exchange offer growth or just create more noise? More often than not, the answer becomes obvious, and once you see that, the desire to respond fades. Picture a lion walking through the wild. Smaller animals bark, yip, and chase at its heels. But the lion doesn't turn around. It doesn't lower itself to meet their noise. It just keeps walking, calm, powerful, unbothered, because it knows exactly what it is. That's not arrogance. That's self-possession. That's the recognition that not every voice is worth your reply. Letting someone be wrong about you doesn't make you weak. It means you respect yourself. It means you value peace over pride. It means you understand your energy is limited and where you place it defines your strength. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to engage every conflict that beckons. You can walk away not because you're afraid of confrontation, but because you've made peace your priority. The moment you stop trying to be understood by everyone is the moment you start understanding yourself. From that place, you move with intention. You speak with purpose, and you truly live unshaken. That's mastery. That's clarity. That's self-respect. Mastery, releasing the need to control others so you want them to get it, to realize what they did, to see how they hurt you. You want them to acknowledge their blind spots, to grow, to apologize, to evolve. But the truth is, many won't, not because they're evil, not because they're trying to hurt you, but because they're not ready, or they don't want to, or maybe it's simply not your job to be the one who helps them change. The more tightly you hold on to the hope that they will, the more you entangle yourself in pain. You begin to carry the weight of their growth like it's yours to bear. You explain, you repeat, you give them grace, then frustration, then silence, yet nothing shifts. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth emerges. They don't see it, or they're unwilling to. And you finally realize you're not the one who's supposed to make them change. That realization can sting, especially when your heart is in the right place, especially when you care. But there is profound freedom on the other side of that. Acceptance, because you are not responsible for fixing anyone. You are not required to hold your peace hostage, waiting for someone else to rise. Trying to force another person's evolution is like pulling a heavy rope tied to nothing. You strain, you pull, and you burn out, trying to drag someone who's not even trying to move. And yet, the moment you let go, not in anger, but in clarity, you feel something release. Your body relaxes, your breath returns. You begin to stand, taller, not because you gave up, but because you got free. You weren't created to control outcomes. You were made to lead yourself, to master your responses, your choices, your energy. That's where influence lives, not in pressure, but in presence. Think about the energy we waste trying to convince, to argue, to explain. That energy could be fueling your own growth. That time could be spent strengthening your values, your vision, and your mission. Ironically, when you stop trying to change others and shift into self-command, something beautiful happens. Others begin to notice. Your peace becomes louder than your pressure ever was, not because you lectured, but because you led. There is no real power in making someone respect you. Real power comes from respecting yourself so deeply that you stop needing anyone else's approval. There is no peace in waiting for the apology that may never come. The peace comes when you decide to heal anyway. You don't have to be a player. In every emotional tug of war, you can let go of the rope. You can choose how you show up. And in that choice, you reclaim your authority. Letting go of the need to control others is not surrender, it's sovereignty. When you do, you stop letting their behavior dictate your mood. You stop letting their immaturity rob you of peace. You stop being a reflection of their choices and become a reflection of your own integrity. That's not selfish. That's power. The quiet, unshakable kind. So ask yourself not to blame, but to reflect. Am I spending more energy on changing them than I am on strengthening myself? Because every moment spent on changing someone else is a moment not invested in owning your own life. You might not be able to change them, but you can change how you carry it. You can shift. You can grow. You can detach with love, protect your peace, and stay open-hearted without staying entangled. That isn't weakness. That's wisdom. That's what strength looks like when it stops needing to prove itself. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Maybe they speak with confidence, or worse, with cruelty, and suddenly, you feel it. That tension in your chest, that pull to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, the urge to speak up, to clear your name, to correct the record, to make them see just how far off they really are. You feel the sting of the accusation pressing against your pride. But what if you didn't respond? What if you let the misunderstanding remain, not out of fear, but out of strength? There's a profound kind of power in silence, not silence as retreat, but silence as command. The kind that comes from knowing your truth so completely that you no longer need it repeated back to you. The kind that comes from being so grounded in who you are that outside noise doesn't require a reaction. The wise don't chase every opinion. They don't waste their energy on battles that don't matter. How many times have people spent hours, days, even arguing a point that didn't need to be proven at all? Engaging with people who never wanted to understand in the first place. Debating not to gain clarity, but to serve ego. And even when they win, what did they really gain? They lose time, they lose calm, and they lose peace. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every battle deserves your presence. Real truth, if it's true, won't vanish just because it's doubted. It doesn't collapse under the weight of someone's willful blindness. And neither should you. Imagine standing steady while someone misreads your motives, twists your intent. You don't flinch. You don't explain. You stay grounded in your truth. That's not avoidance, that's power. That's knowing some people will remain committed to misunderstanding you, no matter what you say. And others, the ones who really matter, won't need an explanation at all. They already see you clearly. This isn't about being silent in the face of injustice. It's not about holding your tongue when your voice matters. It's about learning which battles are worth your breath. You begin to choose your words with care. You ask yourself, what will proving this really earn me? Will this exchange offer growth or just create more noise? More often than not, the answer becomes obvious, and once you see that, the desire to respond fades. Picture a lion walking through the wild. Smaller animals bark, yip, and chase at its heels. But the lion doesn't turn around. It doesn't lower itself to meet their noise. It just keeps walking, calm, powerful, unbothered, because it knows exactly what it is. That's not arrogance. That's self-possession. That's the recognition that not every voice is worth your reply. Letting someone be wrong about you doesn't make you weak. It means you respect yourself. It means you value peace over pride. It means you understand your energy is limited and where you place it defines your strength. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to engage every conflict that beckons. You can walk away not because you're afraid of confrontation, but because you've made peace your priority. The moment you stop trying to be understood by everyone is the moment you start understanding yourself. From that place, you move with intention, you speak with purpose, and you truly live unshaken. That's mastery, that's clarity, that's self-respect, Mastery, releasing the need to control others so you want them to get it, to realize what they did, to see how they hurt you. You want them to acknowledge their blind spots, to grow, to apologize, to evolve. But the truth is many won't. Not because they're evil, not because they're trying to hurt you, but because they're not ready, or they don't want to, or maybe it's simply not your job to be the one who helps them change. The more tightly you hold onto the hope that they will, the more you entangle yourself in pain. You begin to carry the weight of their growth like it's yours to bear. You explain, you repeat, you give them grace, then frustration, then silence, yet nothing shifts. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth emerges. They don't see it, or they're unwilling to, and you finally realize you're not the one who's supposed to make them change. That realization can sting, especially when your heart is in the right place, especially when you care. But there is profound freedom on the other side of that acceptance, because you are not responsible for fixing anyone. You are not required to hold your peace hostage, waiting for someone else to rise. Trying to force another person's evolution is like pulling a heavy rope tied to nothing. You strain, you pull, and you burn out, trying to drag someone who's not even trying to move. And yet, the moment you let go, not in anger, but in clarity, you feel something release. Your body relaxes, your breath returns. You begin to stand taller, not because you gave up, but because you got free. You weren't created to control outcomes. You were made to lead yourself, to master your responses, your choices, your energy. That's where influence lives, not in pressure, but in presence. Think about the energy we waste trying to convince, to argue, to explain. That energy could be fueling your own growth. That time could be spent strengthening your values, your vision, and your mission. Ironically, when you stop trying to change others and shift into self-command, something beautiful happens. Others begin to notice. Your peace becomes louder than your pressure ever was. Not because you lectured, but because you led. There is no real power in making someone respect you. Real power comes from respecting yourself so deeply that you stop needing anyone else's approval. There is no peace in waiting for the apology that may never come. The peace comes when you decide to heal anyway. You don't have to be a player. In every emotional tug of war, you can let go of the rope. You can choose how you show up. And in that choice, you reclaim your authority. Letting go of the need to control others is not surrender, it's sovereignty. When you do, you stop letting their behavior dictate your mood. You stop letting their immaturity rob you of peace. You stop being a reflection of their choices and become a reflection of your own integrity. That's not selfish. That's power. The quiet, unshakable kind. So ask yourself not to blame, but to reflect. Am I spending more energy on changing them than I am on strengthening myself? Because every moment spent on changing someone else is a moment not invested in owning your own life. You might not be able to change them, but you can change how you carry it. You can shift. You can grow. You can detach with love, protect your peace, and stay open-hearted without staying entangled. That isn't weakness. That's wisdom. That's what strength looks like when it stops needing to prove itself. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Let the world rush. Let others panic and chase the noise. You remain still in the moment. You breathe with presence. You wait not out of fear, but from strength. Because when you finally move, it won't be driven by desperation. It will be grounded in mastery. Life's challenges aren't curses, they're character builders. Most people flee the hard things. They retreat at the first sting of discomfort, dodge adversity, and pray for a path without friction. They call that peace, but often it's just avoidance in disguise. Though you've started to understand that ease doesn't create anything worthwhile, not strength, not depth, not resilience. It's the resistance, the pressure, the weight that forges. Substance. Struggle isn't here to defeat you. It's here to develop you. It never asks for permission. It shows up unannounced and uninvited. But if you meet it with open eyes and steady breath, everything changes. You stop seeing pain as punishment. You begin to recognize it as preparation. Struggle doesn't just test your character, it helps shape it. If you let it, when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And instead ask, what is this trying to teach me? The entire meaning shifts. Every hardship becomes a mirror. It shows you what's still weak, what's still raw, what's still untrained. But it doesn't stop there. It gives you the opportunity to strengthen it. When life pushes in on you, it's not trying to destroy you. It's searching for what's real in you. And the only way to find that is through pressure. Picture a blade left untouched. it dulls. But pressed to stone, ground with friction it sharpens. It becomes precise, strong, dangerous in all the right ways. You are no different. Without the grind, you lose your edge. Without fire, there's no refinement. You've already survived trials that could have broken you, and yet here you are, stronger, smarter, clearer. That was no accident. It was transformation. And the more you stop dodging the hard, the more you see it for what it is essential. The friction is not the enemy, it is the path. This doesn't mean you chase suffering for its own sake, but you no longer retreat when life gets heavy. You don't fold. You don't hide. You step in, you breathe, you observe, and you ask, what part of me needs to grow to meet this moment? That question alone carries power because it turns the pain from an obstacle into a forge. Visualize the version of you you're becoming, the one who handles pressure with grace, who faces conflict without losing clarity, who doesn't fall apart when things get hard. That version isn't born from ease. It's sculpted in the fire of everything you used to avoid. The truth is most won't choose this. They'll keep retreating, blaming, and escaping anything that demands real grit. But that's not your road anymore. You've chosen something else, not because it's comfortable, but because it's true, because it demands more of you, and because it gives back something greater than ease. It gives growth. So the next time life presses in, don't run from it. Pause, face it, let it stretch. Something inside you, then move toward it even if you're trembling. Because when you stop avoiding challenge, you stop being owned by it. You shift from survival to strength, from reactivity to response, from fear to freedom. You begin to welcome the weight, not because it's pleasant, but because you trust who you're becoming beneath it. And that's worth every step through the fire. Now, honoring your energy like currency. Your energy is everything. It fuels your thoughts, decisions, and how you show up in the world. But unlike time, it doesn't tick on a predictable clock. Some days you rise with it overflowing. Other days, it drains before your feet hit the floor. Yet most people move through life spending it recklessly, throwing it into every argument, every fear, and every demand that barks for their attention. Then, they wonder why they're drained, numb, disconnected. Energy isn't infinite. It's sacred. And you don't just regain it by wanting it back. If you don't guard it, the world will take it without asking. Every worry loop you replay, every pointless debate, and every thought you entertain that doesn't serve you at all costs something. You may not feel the price immediately, but it accumulates. And if left unchecked, it becomes burnout. You must become selective, not harsh, not cold, just wise. Not everything needs a reply. Not everyone deserves access to your core. Some things are loud and demanding, but utterly unworthy of your life force. Giving them your attention is like watering weeds. Your energy drains and nothing meaningful grows. Picture your energy like a flame. It's not meant to light every shadow. That screams for light. It's meant to focus where it matters most. You decide where it goes on your health, your purpose, your growth, your peace. When you direct it intentionally, it glows brighter. When you scatter it, it dims. This kind of living takes a subtle discipline. It's not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. It's catching your thoughts before they spiral into negativity. It's choosing not to pour yourself into people who leave you empty. It's protecting your spirit like the sacred source it is. Energy doesn't bounce back automatically. It needs recovery, space, restoration. There's strength in silence, in not reacting to every jab, not because you're passive, but because you're protective. You're guarding your most important asset. The quieter you become, the more clearly you feel where your energy belongs and where it's being stolen. You begin to sense the difference between what deserves your full presence and what only seeks to drain it. Ask yourself constantly, is this fueling me or fracturing me? That's not selfish. That's survival. That's smart. Because when your energy is managed with care, you become deeply rooted. You become present, powerful. You stop being tugged in 100 directions. You move with precision. Protect your energy like it's sacred because it is. It powers how to love, how to lead, how you create, how to heal. And the more you honor it, the more you have to give, the more peace remains for yourself at the end of the day. Finally, holding yourself to a higher standard quietly, not to impress, but because it's who you are. In the way you move, in the choices you make, in the standards you uphold when no one else is looking. Your identity is defined. You're not out here performing. You're not seeking validation or waiting for someone else to co-sign your worth. You've already decided who you are. You've already drawn the line. Not because you wanted attention for it, but because it's simply who you are, and nothing and no one gets to bend that. The world is noisy, full of announcements, full of people shouting their dreams, broadcasting every intention as if saying it out loud somehow builds it. But you know the truth. Intentions don't construct anything. Actions do. And the ones who truly live by their values, they rarely need to speak them. You see it in how they move, in how they show up, in how they keep going long after the spotlight is gone. You take the longer road not because it's glamorous, but because it's honest. You choose the harder route not because anyone's watching, but because your standards don't drop just because the lights are off. That's where the real difference lives, in the quiet, in the unseen, in the moment you do the right thing simply because it's right. You refuse to lower yourself for shortcuts. You've chosen integrity over recognition, and maybe sometimes it feels like no one noticed, like your choices didn't matter. But they did. Every small decision, every quiet moment where you honored your principles over convenience. You were building something no one can ever take from you, a core, a compass, an inner strength. You're not chasing trends. You're not asking for permission. You're walking a different path, your own. And yes, it's lonelier sometimes. Yes, it demands more of you, but it also gives more. It gives you peace. It gives you clarity. It gives you a life built on something unshakable. This kind of strength most people will never understand. While others shift with trends, you remain rooted. While others bend for comfort, you stay the course. And in that stillness, in that discipline, you find something deeper, proof that real power doesn't need attention. It needs consistency. It needs truth. It needs grit. Ask yourself honestly, would I still do this if no one ever saw it, if no one clapped, if no one thanked me? And if the answer is yes, then you are right where you need to be. Because that's what it means to live by your own standard, not driven by praise or fear, but guided by that quiet voice inside. Let others break their own rules to fit in. Let them chase quick wins and loud approval. You're building something different, something that lasts. And that kind of legacy doesn't come from noise. It comes from depth. In a world trading values for visibility, your refusal to waver makes you rare. And in that rarity, you become unshakable, not because the world can't reach you, but because it can't shake what you built within. Staying consistent when motivation fades, this is where the work begins. Motivation is beautiful. When it arrives, it brings a rush, a spark, a sense of energy and invincibility, but it never stays. It fades. It disappears. Sometimes for days, and if you're relying on it, if you wait for it to guide you, you'll stop every time it does. That's where people fall, not because they're weak, not because the dream is impossible, but because they were counting on a feeling. They were chasing inspiration, not discipline, and feelings, they're inconsistent. One bad night, one tough conversation, one unexpected turn, and suddenly the spark is gone. That's why your life can't be built on how you feel. It has to be built on what you've decided, on what you've committed to. Consistency isn't sexy. It doesn't get celebrated. It doesn't always feel good, but it builds something stronger than any moment of motivation ever could. It builds rhythm. It builds trust with others, and most importantly, with yourself. You get up today not because you're excited, but because it's what you do. You show up tomorrow not because you feel strong, but because you said you would. Think of a river. It doesn't shout. It doesn't sprint. It just flows relentless and steady. Over time, it carves through stone. That's what you're doing. Not exploding with drama or hype, but shaping your life with quiet force, one steady day at a time. There will be days when it's hard, when it feels like no one notices, when the progress feels invisible. But those days, they count the most. Because showing up when it's difficult is what creates the edge. That's where people quit, and that's where you separate. You don't need a perfect mindset. You don't need fireworks. You need a decision. You need the discipline that says, I show up regardless. Because when you're led by commitment, instead of emotion, everything changes. The work gets done. The habits lock in. The results start compounding. And before you know it, you've become someone solid. Not flashy, not loud, but dependable. First for others, but most importantly for yourself. Ask yourself, am I letting feelings run my life, or have I built something deeper? Because the moment you let go of needing motivation, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for the right mood and you just begin. This doesn't mean burning out. This doesn't mean never resting. It means becoming intentional, building systems that support you when your willpower is low. It means showing up especially on the quiet days, because those are the ones that build legacy. Over time, that rhythm creates something most never reach: momentum that lasts. The kind of momentum that doesn't depend on praise, that moves even when no one's watching, that carries you toward the life you said you'd build. So stop waiting to feel ready. Begin, move, show up, and let your consistency speak louder than your inspiration ever could. And when it comes to finishing what you start, remember that starting is easy. It's exciting. It brings a burst of promise. But that spark, it fades. The middle gets messy. The process gets heavy. That's where most fall. Not because they can't finish, but because they never train themselves to. They confuse excitement for commitment. But ideas alone don't build legacy. Execution does. And execution only happens when you finish. Mastery lives in completion, not in scattered effort, not in abandoned beginnings. In the moments you want to quit, but don't. In the times you feel tired, but still follow through. Because finishing isn't about perfection. It's about resolve. It's about closing loops, keeping promises, not for applause, but because you said you would. That kind of follow-through becomes your identity, and identity becomes destiny. When you finish, you become someone different, someone who can be trusted, not just by others, but by yourself. That's rare. That's powerful. So don't rush through. Don't half-do it. Finish, not for noise, but for truth. Finish because it's your standard, and from that place, begin. Again, quietly, steadily, with resolve, because that's where the shift happens. That's how everything changes. If this message hit home, don't just let it fade into the background. Let it change something. Let it shape how you move from here, because this isn't just a video. It's a wake-up call, a challenge to rise above the noise and live with purpose, discipline, and quiet strength. And if this spoke to you, then what's coming next will speak even louder. So stay with us. Don't just watch, commit, subscribe, turn on the bell, and join us for the next video, because your evolution is unfolding one choice, one lesson, and one step at a time. We'll meet you there. Keep going. Keep growing. The next level is waiting.